All right, let's continue here now. President Cyril Ramaphosa has expressed his condolences following the passing of anti-apartheid activist Aziz Pahad. Pahad died at his Johannesburg home yesterday. He was 82. He served as Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and Member of Parliament from 1994 until 2008. Pahad is being remembered for his many contributions to South Africa, especially the formulation of country's policy on the Middle East and his opposition to the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003. Pahad's journey in politics spans back to the apartheid era. A staunch advocate for non-racialism, Pahad played a significant role in the establishment of the anti-apartheid movement in the United Kingdom and Europe, and held public and secret transition talks with different role players in order to end apartheid. Now, this eventually led to the unbanning of political organizations, the release of Nelson Mandela, and dialogues and discussions that eventually led to a free democratic South Africa. Amongst his domestic and international accolades, Pahad was awarded the Ubuntu O.R. Tambo Lifetime Achievement Diplomacy Award in 2022 in recognition of his role in forging peace in conflict-ridden countries in some parts of the African continent. Well, to help us reflect on the life and times of Aziz Pahad, we are now joined by Dr Fazel Randera, a former TRC Commissioner. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, sir. Now, this is a man who was very active in the anti-apartheid struggle, and like his late brothers, he followed in his father's footsteps, Ghulam Pahad. Perhaps talk to us about how should we remember Aziz Pahad?
Well, Aziz should be remembered first and foremost for his contribution to the South African struggle and to bring us to a democratic state, because that was very foremost in his mind in all the years that he was in exile, in his youth, political education, that remained steadfast throughout. In addition, I suppose, having watched your interview of what's happening in Swane, and what I've just said about bringing us to a democratic South Africa, he's certainly in the more recent years, played a very important role with the stalwarts and veterans of the ANC, with the Concerned African Forum, with the Veterans League, in expressing his concern as to the struggles that our country continues to face. But he never gave up hope. He always was very positive. He always believed that we can overcome the issues that we are facing. So I would say that the third aspect, of course, Aziz was strongly committed to a non-racial, non-sexist society free of poverty and inequality. And as I said early on, those were very much his sentiments in the last few years. Let's not forget the important role that is played in the development of our policies towards international affairs, and his commitment to Africa and ensuring that Africa actually plays its right role and meaning role in the rest of the world's forums. I think those for me would be very important areas of Aziz's contributions.
Now, a lot of, people of his stature, particularly those that were exiled many years ago, Dr. Randera, were similar in their nature in terms of what they did once they were in those areas in which they were confined in. For instance, one has to marvel at the fact that, Pahad played a very important role, as you also say, in anti-apartheid movement in the United Kingdom and in Europe. and held these public or secret transitional talks with different role players in order to end apartheid. And of course, as they say, the rest is history, which is why he played a significant role then, in democratic South Africa, when he became the Deputy Minister of International Relations in 1994.
No, as you've pointed out, my own encounters with Aziz in London, in the many years that I spent in London, was of a person, firstly, committed to ensuring that apartheid comes to an end, that the very indignities that apartheid has brought to our people should see an end, and in every respect where he committed himself whilst in exile in London, and also in his endeavors when he went to Lusaka and to Dar es Salaam to meet with leadership of the ANC, that was foremost in his mind. As we all know, that the negotiations with the apartheid regime started in the mid 80s, and Aziz and former President Thabo Mbeki played a significant role in ensuring that the architects of apartheid came to the negotiating table and were able to sit across the table and negotiate that settlement. I'm not saying that settlement came without a price, because as we know, thousands of our people died in the period between 1990 and 1994. But even then, in that period, Aziz ensured that he was part of the peace committees. He was building the structures of people who would be able to get into the new government that came into existence and play the meaningful role in our democratic society.
Mm. And as you say, just looking at what South Africa is currently going through, whether it is issues around, multi-parties who form coalitions, whether it's issues around, just political infighting, and also whether it's issues around what the citizens of South Africa are going through, one can only imagine that this was something that aggrieved Aziz Pahad, would you say?
Well, and let me say that, Aziz, you pointed out early on about the many veterans that have been part of the struggle, have left us and joined the ancestors. Aziz, like many people, expressed his concerns, but Aziz was a great strategic thinker. He always, as I said early on, maintained that we could overcome these issues with the right leadership and with the right policies in mind. Now we know that we go to elections in next year. We know that the ANC, many people are saying that the ANC are going to drop their percentage, but Aziz remained confident right to the end that the ANC would be the dominant party when it came to elections and would be able to win those elections. So I think that's what many veterans, including myself, are committing ourselves to, that we believe that the South Africa can be what we started when the ANC was formed in 1912 and continued to develop its thinking and ideas that culminated in 1956 in what took place in Kliptown, and what came out of Kliptown, the Freedom Charter, which is now integrated into our constitution. So that must continue to be the belief of all South Africans, that we can overcome.
Dr. Randera, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. That was Dr. Fazel Randera, a former TRC Commissioner, obviously talking about the life and times of Aziz Pahad.